Hey, what's up guys, my name is Azoh, and today we're going to take a look at Talon, Runes, and Masteries. Now, you might be wondering, why not Zed? Well, I am not entirely sure what I want to run on Zed right now, so I'm going to figure that out before I make a video on it, but I'm very certain about my Talon, Runes, and Masteries. So, we're going to take a look at first the keystone, Thunderlord's Decree. I have seen people talking about Storm Rage Surge instead. Personally, I think Storm Rage Surge is a bit of an overkill, because you have so much mobility and movement speed already, and it's really sad, but you actually you can't consistently deal 30% of a champion's max HP within 2.5 seconds on Talon. You're not Rise, unfortunately. You're not the old Talon either. So I think, and honestly, you just need your mid game and late game Talon just does not have enough damage that you need every bit of damage that you can get. And also early game Talon has crazy bursts, and adding some extra pressure on that does not hurt at all. So my choice is Thunderlord's Decree. As for these two, pretty similar choice here, but I think Talon has a pretty weak laning phase. It is better now than it used to be, because as I said before, and I'll come back to this a lot of times, his level 2 power spike is insane. But, I don't know, considering you already get Yomu's and your E is basically just roaming the spell and escaping and chasing and but it's very good for roaming. I think the Wanderer is a bit of an overkill, and also you do have some issues farming early game, so I think Savagery does help a lot with that. But it's your prerogative, as is this one, Assassin versus Secret Stash. Secret Stash is fine if you want to go potions, get the cookies instead, get a little bit more mana back from it, and a bit more HP. But I personally think with the power spike level 2, and with the fact that you're roaming a lot, you're running around their forest assassinating, in general, since you're not as much of a team fighter anymore because he really doesn't do anything in team fights, I think Assassin is really good. Now this one is very interesting. With Merciless or Meditation, and I'm running 4/1. And that is because there's an interesting, not really diminishing return, but the value you get from just one rank in meditation is super high when you have really no mana. You would be regenerating a lot of the missing mana. So even though you'd be at, there's an argument for taking 5 ranks in Merciless, but the fact that you take 1 rank in this gives you a lot more than it would if you'd gone like this. Comparatively, because the 4 ranks in Merciless obviously is more important, but having 1 rank still gives you a lot. And is also kind of a theme we come back to, because I'm also running Dangerous Game, which I think a lot of people would object to, saying Greenfather's Gift is better. Now, I have tried Greenfather's Gift, and I really do not like it on mid laners. I feel like you do not consistently get the brush damage. You don't really have the opportunity to run into brush and go engage. If you really commit to it, you absolutely can. You can run into the brush, parkour over the wall, and then attack someone and get the 3% damage. But I feel like it's just such an inconvenient way of playing. Of course, yes, when you're roaming, you can go through brushes or lane brushes or anything like that and get the 3%. There are ways to play around it, which is why I'm not saying it's objectively bad. I'm saying I really prefer the Dangerous Game because I feel like it does allow you to play a little bit more aggressively, and just the regeneration is super nice when people are planning you to die to turrets or such, or just accepting dives pretty much. So it does let you play a little bit more balls to the walls, which I think fits. But again, if you prefer playing with Greenfather's Gift, it also works fine. This one is very interesting too. Honestly, so far all the choices have been kind of hard to make. In the other seasons, they have never been hard to make at all. But here, 8.5 lethality, considering you get around 60% of it, or a little bit less, or you do get less than it, you get like, usually I like to count with like half of the lethality being valuable when you need it, but that is still pretty good actually. It's just it's just problematic because I really hate endorsing lethality, but since you do not, with the build and the masteries I'm gonna run any arm penetration or, well, sorry, really lethality, I think it does work fine. Having a little bit of it to fall back on, having a little bit more scaling, and you do eventually get more lethality, and having more of it, the more you have, the more effective it is, obviously. But intelligence does have its merit, because oftentimes one rotation is not going to kill anyone in late game. His burst just isn't very strong, so getting a second rotation is actually pretty good. And with the right runes and masteries, pretty much you'll get 40% every single game. I honestly can't see a single build where I wouldn't get 40% CDR on Talon, because every game you will get Yomas and Black Cleaver. Even though Yomas is much, much worse right now, you will get Yomas and Black Cleaver every game. But it's your choice. I think the early game burst is a little bit better, even though lethality is a lot weaker than arm penetration. I think the precision still fits better. And we've already talked about Thunder's Decree. This one should be fairly straightforward, sorcery over Fury. If you have a really hard time last hitting, I could recommend Fury instead, but honestly you really shouldn't have any hard time last hitting with Savagery, and with his Q being the way it is, and the fact that they fixed his auto attack animation, it is so good right now. This one is kind of a battle of the worst. I don't like any of these three. Expose weaknesses, I suppose, is okay when you ult someone in late game team fights, or, but not really. Like, I guess if you go for some kind of AoE fighting style, then yeah, in team fights you can get more value from it. But honestly, you're far better off with Feast, I think, sustaining your lane and just having a very, very dominant early game, which is kind of a theme we're coming back to here with Feast for regeneration, Vampirism for regeneration, one ranking meditation for regeneration, Dangerous Game for regeneration, and etc. The only one we weren't running is Secret Stash, pretty much. An argument can be made for Flesh Blood. The idea of Fresh Blood, though, is that you can consistently auto-attack over a longer period of time, like with something like Orianna. I think Orianna works great with Fresh Blood, but Talon does not, in my experience. Because usually you do a 1-2 punch, where you go in for one poke with your passive, then wait out until you can get it again, go in for a burst, kill them. And that does not get much value from Fresh Blood. It does on the first attack, considering it is 11 damage, or a little bit more, like 13 damage. I guess. But I'd still say staying consistently more dominant with regeneration is a little bit better. But again, these two is basically your own choice. I just feel like Talon does not consistently get auto attacks the same way many other champions do. Vampirism is fairly straightforward, regeneration, and the fact that you basically don't get any lifesteal at all. So having some spell vamp and lifesteal does help staying without having to back all the time. So Wing a wave or anything like that does help out a bit. Bounty Hunter versus Double-Edged Sword versus Battle Trance. This one was also pretty tricky. I was considering Double-Edged Sword, but I think the additional take 2.5 damage, take 2.5 additional damage, 2.5% additional damage, sorry, is a bit too much to pay. And of course, Battle Trance. Now, as I said several times, this burst is not very good, so it would take some time to kill people. The issue is that when you've gotten in, done your burst, gotten your passive, and 5 seconds passed, you've already used everything. So you don't really get that much of a bonus when you get the full bonus. And if you delay longer than that, if it takes like 10 seconds to kill someone, which, yes, it is possible. Like I said, his damage really isn't that great late game. But at that point, you would be far better off with Bounty Hunter, because your main point in Talon is really destroying level 2-3 mid, and then roaming. His main only big thing is roaming and hunting in the enemy jungle with parkouring over walls. So getting the different kills on other champions will consistently give you that percentage damage increase, which in my experience has worked out pretty well. So those are my runes. I'm not cemented on these. I don't think these are the perfect ones, and there are many options where you can switch betweens, but I think these are the ones that worked out the best for me. So if you want to copy them, go ahead. For runes, I'm running a fairly standard page, except that instead of armor penetration, because they don't exist anymore, I'm running flat AD. Now, this is not definitely what I'm going to run on Zed, so don't copy anything for Zed yet, but this is definitely what I'm going to run on Talon, because Talon's level 2 is insanely strong. So you run full AD here, full AD marks, full AD quints, and then depending on, you have a HP armor page with CDR, or you have a HP MR page. So the HP armor runs 5 flat HP with 4 flat armor seals and 6 CDR glyphs with 6 flat CDR glyphs with 3 scaling CDR glyphs. This will put you at 10% CDR in late game. Now, I know a lot of people are wondering about the flat HP in both of these pages, because this one is the same, except it's only flat HP and only flat MR. Basically, every pro player runs HP per level, and I don't know if they're going to keep running that. I think they might, but I don't think a lot of pro players are going to play Talon because he has like a 44% win ratio. The reason for the flat HP is because, again, your early game must be dominant. The big problem with Talon right now is that if you kind of get to a stale point in mid-game, you just don't have anything. You can jump in on people from walls and stuff, and you can burst AD carries. The problem is it takes so long to do it, and that's what they were going for. I'm gonna take that in another video, by the way, but that's what they were going for. They wanted to make it take a long time for assassins to kill people, and it does. The problem is that they have a support there. Nothing you can do about it. So you need to snowball early game. So having all of these flat resistances and HP and flat AD just gives you you're just a powerhouse in early game. It's actually really cathartic to play with. I would highly recommend testing this out and just going full balls to the walls with Talon early game. A lot of fun. But it also works out pretty well, because I said his level 2 burst is really good. If you get a 1-2 punch, you do 1 engage, get the passive, wait up for spells, go in again, go for the burst and kill. With like Q jump in, W, and then, yeah, I'll do the combos in another video. It works out pretty well. So with this super early dominant power, I think it works out pretty well. And again, the 10% CDR here means that you will have 40%, because it's 10% at 18, you'll be at 40% in late game. So if you think I am off the mark, you can let me know in the comments what you're running on Talon. I think these have worked out pretty well, and if you do play super aggressively early game and then start roaming, get snowballing, you start getting more value from Bounty Hunter and etc. So let me know what you think of this build, but if you had no idea what to build, there you go. Hope you guys enjoyed. I will see you all next time. Peace.